Welcome to the broadcast, everybody, and greetings from my salon, where it's been an extremely hectic day. I'm totally behind schedule. If I seem frenetic, well, I am, but I'm not wired, I'm not high, I'm just trying to get this done. There's nothing worse than going into the evening after the dusk has fallen and one's still working, getting editing done and things like this going on for hours. The worst feeling in the world. So that's why I might seem a little bit frenetic. We've got a variety of topics to discuss. We've got Catherine, we've got Meghan, we've got other royals, and a few saucy, spicy questions from viewers that I will be responding to. A little bit of spice there in the mix. I'm also going to be selling my purple throne, and I'll give details to anybody who might be interested in acquiring the purple throne, which is an iconic piece of furniture from my previous broadcasts, but its time is done. I'll put timestamps in the description box. And we have a replacement of sorts, if you will. Have you noticed at the side there? Yes, a new armchair, which I think is absolutely splendid. I'm so happy with it. I sort of gasped when I saw it, because in the flesh it looked quite yellow. And I only say that because I was expecting it to be cream. It looked cream in the description, in the photos. It said cream as well. But it's a sort of yellowy gold hue to it. But actually it works splendidly, especially alongside this Aubusson tapestry and the gilt of my picture frames and this sort of thing, and its own gilt. It looks really, really splendid. And of course, as I told you, we've got another one coming along in a few more weeks, which will be a bit fancier with its blue and silk damask. But I'll be able to broadcast to you from them as well, so we'll be able to have a bit of variety, won't we? Another of the things that I was waiting for to take delivery of today is the lamp behind me. Well, actually, the lamp stand, I didn't realise that it came with the grey shade there, but it did. Actually, I think it's rather elegant. What do you think of the stand? You can be honest with me. I haven't decided whether or not I'm keeping it yet. The idea is to get two, because I want to bring more symmetry to the wall behind me. So there'll be two matching tables, two matching lamps, you know, to bring a little bit of harmony to that wall of the room. But actually, I'm really quite pleased with it. I didn't want a grey shade, and I won't keep the grey shade. I like it, but I wanted to bring lightness to this room and avoid greys, actually, even though it looks nice next to the walls. But I wanted cream or white, or maybe baby pink or baby blue. Actually, I ordered a separate lampshade for it, but I didn't realise at 40 centimetres across that it was quite so huge for some reason. It's too big for it, so. But I rather like the look of these gathered lamps. I saw one in an antique shop that was all gathered like this. And I liked the look of it, but this is too large. They come in smaller sizes, so I might try that, but we'll see. The one thing I don't like, as we've complained about before, my dear, is the bulb in it. It's horrible, isn't it? I think they call themselves warm white, but I don't see much warmth emanating from it, and I don't like the fact that the light comes out of the top. That's why I rather like Tiffany style lamps, if you will, that have more of a cloche design over them, because it directs the light downwards. So I have to have a think about that. I have tried to order a warmer light bulb, but I don't trust any of these LED affairs or whatever they are, my dear. They're just not as warm as the old incandescents, are they? But what can you do? That's what we've been forced into. Let's kick off with a little bit of news involving the King, because he was presenting the legendary editor-in-chief of Vogue, I think they mean to say there, of Vogue, with the Order of the Companions of Honour for services to fashion. Of course, we're talking about Anna Wintour, and well done to all those who received their honours today. There's clapping emojis in this official announcement, shades and medal emojis. Call me a sour fruit, a bit of a killjoy, or an old bitchy queen. Call me what you will, my dear. I'll wear that cloak. But have they been taking lessons from Network Rail's new woke guidance for dumbed-down language, warm, informal language, language for pros? Because I don't really appreciate, sour fruit as I may be, them calling Anna Wintour a legendary icon or whatever it is. She is legendary. I happen to like the woman very much, actually, despite some reservations I know viewers may have. But it's not their place to say, it's not the royals' manner to call these people legends of their own era. Do you understand, my dear? That's for fans of the hoi polloi. Really, we don't need to dumb down the language and go all Network Rail on everybody. I hate it, hate it, hate it. Can we bring back some decorum, please? Some decorum. It's not royal. It is not royal, do you understand? But I'm very happy for Dame Anna. Absolutely delighted for the gal. I've rubbed shoulders with her before on a number of occasions through many mutual friends, but especially actually the late Andre Leon Talley. I know they fell out, of course, towards the end, but he certainly appreciated her legacy, I know that for sure, and he appreciated her work ethic and her flair, as do I, which she doesn't always get right, but she is a very, very powerful publishing figure in the world of publishing, as you know, via Condé Nast, of course, and her success comes to a dynastic bent, if you will. Her father, Charles, of course, was editor at the London Evening Standard. Her brother, Patrick, involved with The Guardian, one of their diplomatic editors, and the family have connections to royalty historically. Her grandfather, Fitzgerald, was Companion of the Order of Bath and also a commander of the Order of the British Empire, so they have form, you understand. And this is a great honour and a really thrilling moment for Dame Anna. She loves the royals. She loves the royals. And you can bet your life that deep down she is dismayed with Meghan and Harry's behaviour, whether or not they go in and out of fashion and whether she wants them on their cover or not. You can bet your bottom dollar, my dear, that really deep down she's Team Catherine. Don't you believe anything else. The Companion of Honour is given to only 65 recipients existing at any one time who have made a significant contribution to national life. And she even removed her trademark sunnies for the king. Dame Tracy Emmett also was honoured after being created Dame last year, which is delicious to see for her services to art. Well done, Dame Tracy and Dame Anna. Wonderful pair of dames. Nothing like a dame, is there? And let's have a little dose of our beloved Princess of Wales, shall we? Because our Catherine, our fair Catherine, was photographed by Prince Louis to mark World Cancer Day in this frosty woodland scene at Windsor. And spending time in nature has been a crucial part of the healing process for Catherine, so it's rather appropriate. She says, don't forget to nurture all that which lies beyond the disease. Isn't that very wise? Wise words from the princess. No word salad from the fair Catherine. Do you understand? Do you notice this? No word salad. She is succinct, she is sincere, and the message gets through. Because she doesn't use all this fluff, schnot and trana, and all the rest of the tricks that the Sussexes use, and word salads. No. She was dressed soberly in a brown blazer at the National Portrait Gallery, introducing a new initiative on behalf of her Royal Foundation Centre for Early Childhood. And she took the bus. Yes, she did. This was wonderful. A school bus with students as they headed for a field trip to the gallery. She appeared from the bus, hand in hand, with a new chum by the name of Grace, to see the interactive Bowbeam Tree Trail. Catherine wasn't there merching her wares. Do you notice this? She was not the merchantress of Venice Beach. She was not there to promote books of drivel under the guise of poetry that no child, or indeed any adult, wants to read. They wouldn't wipe their arses with the pages of The Bench. Do you understand? It's not known as the stench for Nat. She's so very natural with the children, isn't she? A real natural. They adore her, they cling to her. And the Bowbeam Tree Trail empowers children to thrive emotionally and socially, developing these skills. Meghan Sussex has been up to her old tricks today. Instagram. Taking to Instagram in a very candid little vignette. What's she been going on about? Well, first of all, I noticed, she's at Meghan on Instagram, isn't she? That's her handle. She managed to bag the one name she likes to parade herself around in the manner, thinking that she can join the ranks of those who are only known by their one name, whether it's their first name, we're not allowed to say Christian name anymore, whether it's their first name or their surname. There's Madonna, there's Cher, Sherilyn, Enya, Nefertiti, Cleopatra, Tutankhamun, we've got Liberace, RuPaul, River, and Meghan. Let's keep supporting those affected by the California wildfires. Thanks to everyone who made this possible, but most importantly, thank you to our first responders who are the community's real heroes, as ever. Meghan, that's a new thing, isn't it? As ever. Well, let's be fair, shall we? And give some balance to this. I'm going to start with the pluses. And some of you will hate this because you hate it when I give her a compliment, but I truly mean it. I think she looked lovely. I really think she looked gorgeous. We see so many unflattering photographs of her, some deservedly so, but some just because photos can be hideously cruel to anybody, whether you're she or Catherine or me or you. Come on, let's face it, my dear. We don't always look great in every photo, but in this, she looked lovely. She looked youthful. She looked fresh-faced. But you could sense that sort of histrionic tendency that she has. Do you understand? That slightly manic, histrionic, a sense of the hyperactive, always on the go, always on the lookout. She used the expression, oh my gosh, no offence to anybody, but that's one of my pet hates. Just say, oh God, oh my God, oh my, oh, anything but oh my gosh. It's just so demure as to be a little sickly sweet for me, but I thought she looked good. However, if you haven't heard this story, I'm not going into the ins and outs of it because it's too trivial, but, you know, very kindly she tended to some poor, very poor young girl, I think it was, a Billie Eilish fan. And I think one of her favourite items had been left in the burning house that she came from in the LA fires. And so Meghan found out about this and she wanted to move heaven and earth to do something for the gal. Very kind. And she managed to rustle up lots of merchandise from Billie Eilish. How can we frown upon a sweet gesture of kindness? Well, I don't on the gesture itself. I'm sure it made the young gal's day, and we keep hearing so many stories of how the community are just in tears and delighted by the attention that she's bringing to important matters. So praise must go where praise is due. However, she piggybacks, doesn't she? She piggybacks on the popularity of others. She's tried to do it with Beyonce. She tries to do it with all kinds of celebrities to subsume their popularity, their fan base, by an osmosis of some sort of kind. Do you understand? This is what I always sense, and many do. It lacks altruism. I think that's what I'm trying to say. It lacks the authenticity of altruism. She talks about the heroes. She gives them the praise and the credit where it's due. But really, the undercurrent always feels as if she's saying, look at me. Look at me, look at me. Aren't I kind, aren't I sweet? Aren't I a philanthropist to put every royal to shame for the rest of their days? That's what I see. That could be my imagination, my dears. I can only tell you what I see, can't I, my dear? And she says, my husband and I, she says, my husband and I. You're me and Harry, darling. You're me and Harry. You don't need to give it all the royal pizzazz. You ain't Queen Elizabeth. She's dead. And you are not replacing her. Even your dear princess daughter, through no fault of her own, was named the ugliest name in Christendom. And you think she might be the next coming of the late Elizabeth. Not going to happen, isn't happening. So drop all this my husband and I bullshit. We all know who you're referring to. Harry! It was a vulgar performance. Okay, spicy time for a couple of questions. Adriana de Madriguera says, River, February is Black History Month here in the United States. Again, again, my dear. Oh, geez. Geez Louise, Jeepers Creepers, and sweet Jiminy Cricks. Black History Month, Yawnsville. You had mentioned more than once that you have had the pleasure of having people of colour as former lovers. Did I? How indiscreet. Yes, indeed, every colour of the rainbow. You have so many fabulous stories. Could you share some naughty tales of sexy liaisons with those ebony enamorados? A bit of silly fun for your dark berries like myself here in the US. Much love to you. Well, much love to you as well, my dear. Very naughty. Well, as much as I'd love to hold forth on such fruity subjects, we are restricted somewhat by the community guidelines of YouTube, so I can't regale you in the style that I'd like to regale you with, do you understand? Coming over on May West, I was Snow White until I drifted. Oh, boys, come make some noise. I'm more Diana Dawes, to be honest with you, my dear, than Mae West. Give me old Diana Dawes. So I have to speak to you in riddles and with allusions, which you will have to read between the lines for, my dear, you see. Well, it's been many decades, hasn't it? Many decades since berries of different colours, as you put it, intermingling with each other was rare or taboo. You know, that was a very long time ago. It's nothing unusual now, is it, my dear? It's hardly worth a mention, the fact that we all mingle with each other. But it's fun. It's fun to hold forth on, isn't it, my dear? Every nationality brings a different flavour to the fruit basket. That is one thing I will say. To the proceedings of the type that take place in my bedchamber. And they do say, don't they, that once you've been black, you don't go back. Well, I do go back. I go back, forth and sideways, my dear. I tell you, variety is the spice of life. It is the spice. So I don't believe that one race or one colour excels in the bedchamber department more than another. Having said that, I will say that there is a certain confidence, shall we say, a certain masterfulness that some people of colour, or some colours under the umbrella of people of colour, possess, and possibly are. The darker the berry, the more masterful the juicing. But this is a generalisation, you understand. Another generalisation involves the appendage of black men. They say that the black man enjoys an endowment of some size, don't they? A largesse of membership. Should we put it that way, my dear? Say it how you will, and scientifically and statistically, actually, I believe, this has been confirmed. This is true. The membership of the black man has a largesse that outshines the counterparts of other races. Not necessarily saying that the length of the tree or the height of the tree guarantees its beauty and its usefulness. That's for the individual to ascertain and to judge. But I'm being careful here, my dear. You understand, I've got to be careful where I tread. But statistically speaking, compared to black men, then white men and some Asians are more modestly proportioned. Well, I've got to tell you, I'm usually 9 times out of 10 delighted with the proportions of white men, as I am with black. I'm usually delighted with the proportions. I mean, they say that the average length of a full-grown and proud bonsai tree of most men is just over 5 inches, don't they? That's what they say. Of most bonsai trees is just over 5 inches. Well, I think myself and most of my girlfriends have been rather lucky, because most of the time when you unwrap a Christmas present, you have rather an ample jack-in-the-box spring out, don't you? And it's quite a delight in my experience anyway. And there's quite a bit of experience under the belt. Do you understand? Yeah, usually delighted with the proportions of all types, my dear. There really are some enormous bonsai trees out there. They're not rare at all, as one might think. They seem to be quite prolific, these bonsai trees of size. But personally speaking, I will tell you that the girth, wonderful word, isn't it? The girth of a beautiful tree. You know, I've got that wonderful book about the royal trees, the Queen's green canopy. Well, if you gaze out into the Queen's Green canopy and you see a selection of trees, the girthy ones. They're the ones that appeal to me. I mean, not too girthy, you understand, there is a limit, but a sense of a juicy trunk. Do you know what I mean, with the veins running up the trunk? Wonderful. When compared to, that's more appealing to me personally than the height or the length of a great grand tree. Do you understand? Which might be a little bit on the skinny side. We all have different preferences, don't they? One of my girlfriends, another one I was talking to, she likes the tall, long trees that seem to go on forever and ever and ever. Do you understand? Whereas for me, oh dear no. Oh dear no. Jabbing around. No. It depends what you need to spin on. Now, I do not know if it is anything to do with the various melanin counts within different skin shades, how much melanin is in different shades, but each colour and each nationality can give off a different scent, and this is absolutely true. And even within the same races, different colourways, and I'm sure I've mentioned this before, when it comes to redheads, ginger folk, they smell different in the nudie and the altogether. If you give them a good sniff, they smell different. I'm not saying it's better or worse. I've known several Auburn lovers, do you understand? So it's not as if they were discounted, but it has been said that they smell of fox wee, and there is a truth to that. So there is variation between the pink-skinned population as well, my dear, and also in the deep, dark, dusky tones of the world. Sometimes the smells, and I'm just talking subtle, fresh, clean scents and aromas, nothing unsavoury, they are quite particular by region. Possibly comes down to diet sometimes, but not always. I'm convinced it's to do with the chemistry of the skin from the genes and the DNA of a person, my dear. But when it comes to blacks, blackberries, berries of colour, there is, I will say, although I'm not saying that they make better lovers than white berries, because I don't believe that to be true in my experience, but I will say there is a natural athleticism that many blackberries have. An athleticism which is very natural to them. A stamina. Oh, stamina, my dear. And yes, I know it's a cliche, but rhythm. They've got the rhythm. And, they can go like a thoroughbred, my dear. Think of the late Queen's thoroughbred horses. Some can get a little bit on the freaky side, in my experience, which isn't my realm. But just as many suitors that I've known and entertained have been Arabic, Middle Eastern, fruits of India, brown-skinned, and some of them can be quite perfunctory. I've got to tell you, the sense of the perfunctory, depending on the region. And they kiss less. They're not used to kissing as much in their culture. It's a sort of function, which has its charm as well, in some ways. Or those brown-skinned Middle Eastern, Egyptian, Iranian, Persian fruits, and those from India and beyond, sometimes can be extremely sensual and passionate and very Kama Sutra, my dear, spiritual and intensely romantic. So it tends, in my experience, to go from one end of the lollipop to the other. Do you understand? As I say, we're told that the average bonsai tree in its proudest state reaches just over 5 inches. This is according to the World Population Review, and they give us the 10 different countries with the longest trees and the 10 different countries with the shortest known trees. Actually, the one that comes out on top, the largest bonsai trees at around just over 7 inches average, is Sudan, the gentleman of Sudan. The shortest, the gentleman with the, no, rather the bonsai trees with the shortest reach at their proudest at 3.71 inches. are the gentlemen of Thailand, followed by North Korea, Kim Jong-un, North Korea, Cambodia and Nepal, where Edward and Sophie have been this week. So that's some nice imagery for them. And it matters not to me. All bonsai trees have their place in the world and society, doesn't it, my dear? But there you go. Sudan and Thailand, two extremes. Well, I've had splendid suitors from every corner of empire. Every corner of empire and beyond, far beyond, my dear. And there is always more cuisine to sample, isn't there? From the world's bill of fare, there is always more to sample whenever there's a tasting menu. And as I'm sure you might be suggesting, my dear, what was your name? Adriana de Madriguera. As I'm sure you might be suggesting, there's some very sweet berries of colour in the compote. There certainly are. But I do feel that white English, or actually not just white English, but any Englishman, including Englishmen of colour, from the deepest, darkest ebony to the palest white, they also get a bad rap. They're not famed for being either beautiful or for being great lovers, but in my experience, they're actually a sensation. And I really do mean it. I love English men, and I see the most handsome specimens every time I leave the house, every time I walk down the high street. They are everywhere in a way that I haven't seen in other parts of the world. I mean, there are beautiful pockets of the world where the men are gorgeous, but there is less variety. Here you get so much variety in the type of man, the build of man, the colouring of the man, the background of the man, the class of the man. But I think that there are so many beautiful men in this kingdom. I happen to live on a very busy road now, which I adore, because there are peaceful parts of this home, but I can step out of my door and I'm right in the thick of London town, a very energetic, buzzy part of London town, and there are beautiful men out there, like fruit from the tree, my dear, ripe, ready for picking. Ray Dreyes says, I am a straight man. That said, something moves in my boxer shorts when I watch River's videos. Again, no homo. Well, you're one of thousands of straight men to have commented the same way and to have had their curiosity piqued and their boxer shorts piqued by my presence, my dear, in my real life as well. This is not new to me. They flock to me. They flock to me. And I might be camping it up for the broadcast, but what I'm telling you is absolutely true and shouldn't be any surprise. They find me quite irresistible. Gays, not so keen, my dear. They're not my market. And lots of them are jealous, to be quite honest. They don't get the same kind of attention in that manner. Can't bear it. Gays, and I've got some lovely gays here in the audience, by the way, some really special, beautiful gays. I'm not talking about them, but there are some, and they'll pop up with jealousy. And they'll want to remold me and refashion me to, man up, some of them will say, to refashion me in an image that they find acceptable and maybe desirable. I've got no desire whatsoever to appease their taste. Do you understand? But yeah, the straights love me, the husbands love me, and actually many of my female viewers, you have such wonderful senses of humour, but basketeers of generosity, and they speak to me sort of conspiratorially, you understand. They say to me many, many times their husbands have been peeking over their shoulder and they find me rather irresistible. They even told their wives, and this has been in the comment section a lot, and I'm not even talking about latent homosexuals or those who are repressed closet cases. No, it's not that, my dear. It's not that at all, my dear. These are red-blooded heterosexual men. But there is actually quite a prejudice and a double standard, because some of you ladies will have had this experience or have friends with this experience, where you get drunk at a party, and you snog a member of this same sex. You happen to be heterosexual, you like men, but you happen to have a little pashing session or a little kissy and a little Frenchy with another woman, or maybe spend a night with one of them having some fun or joining a menage a trois. And, you know, it's a little girl crush, it's a little amuse-bouche for the evening, do you understand? But it's not really your thing. No one in the future would ever say, oh, well, she's a repressed lesbian, or she's bisexual, or she's this, that, and the 10th. Whereas if a man, a straight heterosexual man, finds something irresistibly beautiful, on a rare occasion as a one-off, then, oh, he's repressed, he's really gay, he's this, that, and the 10th. No, there is more fluidity to it than that without having to be sexually fluid, do you understand? And it really comes down to something quite simple. Beauty is beauty, charm is charm. You know, I'm talking about rare, unique beauty and charm. And sometimes the reaction to that is simply unstoppable. What can one do? Do you understand? Shakespeare, Sonnet 20. That steals men's eyes and women's souls amazeth. Well, I receive invitations all the time, almost on a weekly basis, from couples, heterosexual couples, man and woman, to join them. You know, this is friends of friends, middle-class parties, high society, highfalutin get-togethers and balls, working-class chavs on the council estates of the kingdom. I get invitations all the time. Oh, come and join us, give us a little bit of fun through a menage a trois, because they know that I won't judge them for asking. And it's flattering, it's really flattering actually. I get invited all the time to these kind of acrobatics. Do you understand? People are very open-minded now. Very open-minded in many ways. But yeah, there are lots of lurkers out there. Most of the people that watch the broadcast don't even comment, and I understand it because I'm not a commenter on YouTube. I don't comment for anything unless it's perhaps, you know, sort of like a DIY video and you want to ask about a certain practical question about paint or something. In that case I might, but I'm not a commenter. I love the commenters. They're the heart and soul of this broadcast, and it wouldn't be the same without them. But I understand those of you who lurk and simply enjoy the show. Lately, in fact, lots of people have got in touch to say that they never commented in the past, but feel compelled to about certain recent issues we've discussed, or to say that they're glad to see me. But great swathes of you never comment and simply watch, for which I'm grateful. But lots of the lurkers are the other demographics that you don't see. They're less likely to be the ladies, but they're the gays, the lesbians, particularly lesbians, many other members of the leftist community, one of which I'll broach in a moment, and the men, the straight men. Yes, they're all out there, my dear. They're all watching, they're all enjoying things twitching in their boxer shorts, according to Ray Dreys. But we'd love you to say hello in the comments if this applies to you, just for a change. But please, no more invitations to menage a trois. No, my dear, you know. Men are my jurisdiction, my dear. I appreciate the beauty of a woman and, you know, the odd Frenchie here and there. You know, it happens. It happens. But I will draw the line at going anywhere near their Elizabeth Regina. Julie Loper says, I love your programme. I have a big question. Are you transgender? No. Arctic Tundras has a comment and a question relating to the Network Rail story we spoke about, where they are trying to introduce woke, warm, friendly language and stamp out expressions such as pregnant mother and replace it with pregnant people. Well, Arctic Tundra says, I am a trans man and I intend to carry a child one day. My boyfriend wants to carry naturally. I don't know if that means you or him, but wants to carry naturally as we have the means. But never in my life have I ever, or would I ever, be offended by someone saying pregnant woman. That's the statistical demographic. I promise we're not the nutters that want to police language. The language police hurt the rest of us more than help. It's why I avoid the modern LGBT movement unless it's truly necessary. Well, transgenderism isn't a sexuality, unlike gayness, lesbianism and bisexuality. So that T never belonged with the LGB in the first place, and it was only placed there because L, G and B achieved more or less so much equality that there was no money to be made out of that sort of wheeze. Well, it didn't begin as a wheeze. It began in a place of authenticity, for protesting for equality and achieving equality. And when it was achieved, then they added on the T to the LGB so that they could drum up more business and more finance and insert themselves into the institutions of this land and beyond. I digress. I often wonder if those sorts are even interested in what's good for everyone, as they create more harm than good. I'm a bit of a problem to other trans people because I identify as a man born into a woman's body and don't feel the need to deny sex because of gender. Sex is relevant to health and can't be changed more than cosmetically and hormonally. Well, I agree with you there, my dear, in that respect, in that aspect. I agree that sex cannot be changed, it is immutable. And if you want to hear me hold forth on that, there is another broadcast, many that I've done, but one in response to J.K. Rowling months ago. You can go watch that. And she makes a good point about gametes. I think they're called the gametes within our system that divide us into male and female. And it comes down to a fork in the road in this time and space, the basics of civilization. This is what we're dealing with. For example, some idiot piped up calling me a fool after the last broadcast, and another one who was more polite actually, so I'm not meaning to disparage, but seemed to have no understanding about the nuance, the nature of nuance, asking me for the trillionth time if I think that President Trump and his people would tolerate a man wearing makeup and heels. Do you really not think that I haven't been asked that a million times in this broadcast, my dear, if you're a regular? What Trump would think of the man in makeup and heels. Well, indeed they would tolerate a man in makeup and heels, and indeed they do tolerate men in makeup and heels. Look no further than Caitlyn Jenner, if you want an example, who is a pal of Trump's. You can also look at Trump's history. Remember the fact that him and so many more others in his administration were Democrats. They were Democrat supporters in the not too distant past. So many of them you see up on that stage now representing Republicanism began off Democrat. And he might not be the greatest enthuser for the promotion of other types of sexuality, but I've never seen any evidence of him trying to stamp all over other people's self-expression. He's also married to Melania, who's surrounded by gays. She loves the gays. And J.D. Vance also speaks quite frequently about an old pal of his who is trans, I believe, has no issue with that. It's not they don't tolerate variety. They do tolerate variety, as most right-minded people do. They tolerate the Arctic tundras of this world. Folk like this fella who's left me a comment, this kind trans man here, they tolerate the likes of Arctic tundra, who wish to express themselves and try to live a life in a way that makes them feel comfortable within their own skin. But the Trumps and the Trump's teams of this world, like me, do not wish to tolerate the deluded individuals, the deluded notions of the mentally unwell in many cases, or the money-grubbing gatekeepers to a lucrative industry, whether that's pharmaceuticals or medications or counselling, the gatekeepers to that industry who are making a great big deal of money out of other people's confusion. And as I say, we came to a fork in the road. Do as you will, but don't pee on my leg and tell me that it's raining. This is my philosophy. Do as you will, but you will not pee on my leg and tell me that it's raining, with or without a neo-vagina or a prosthetic phallus. Do you understand? The common sense members of the letters community, who number some of my basketeers, those with common sense and their heads screwed on, who are away with the fairies. They might be fairies, but they're not away with the fairies. they have had to watch on in horror and cringe over the past decade or so, as a loud minority crow that the sky is green and the grass is blue, and expect us to swallow it up, a believer. Live your fantasy, do as you will, invite us to join you in your fantasy. Most will be delighted to do so. I would be delighted to do so. We'll indulge it. But don't pretend to yourself that it's real, and certainly don't demand that of others. Don't demand that others buy the lie and pretend that the fantasy is real. Do you understand? That's my personal philosophy. There's no harm in inviting people into your fantasy or the artifice of the way that you wish to, or are forced or feel forced to live in the world. But don't expect us to swallow bullshit, and don't expect others to buy the lie as if they are bigots, to be cancelled if they don't toe the line, or simply for not denying the realities of biology. Other criticisms that have been made about President Trump, by the way, are valid. Many of those criticisms are valid. And this is what I'm saying when I talk about nuance. Most of you get it, but, and I make it clear every time that I mention President Trump that there are disconcerting aspects to his behaviour. It brings to mind a comment I received from a dear basketeer once telling me that due to President Trump, this was years before the presidency, but her own husband had been tricked or sort of frauded, if you will. I can't remember how she expressed it, but had lost $100,000 because of Trump's behaviour through no fault of her own husband's. And actually, that was one of the very first stories, a similar one to that I ever heard about him years and years ago. Perhaps that he was on The Apprentice, someone disparaging him for the way that they'd been treated in business via Trump. Now, I can't say if it's true. I can't say what happened in your husband's incident, but you know, I certainly get the impression that you ought to be believed, and that is why I will always say that I don't for one moment claim that he is a perfect president or a perfect person or a perfect candidate, and I always say that there are many sides to all of these characters. I'm not a fool and I'm not naive, and if you've watched my previous broadcasts on the subject, well, you would have had an education on that, but at the same time, we have come to a fork in the road, and to have a head of state and a president, as America now does, who can actually just call out the bullshit and say there are men and women and there are those who pretend to be men and women. There is not a crossover of biological sex. For me, these are the building blocks of civilization that needed to be returned to by whatever means. And I also find it insulting that so many people who raise these comments and questions and have issue with me not just entirely denigrating President Trump seem to think that a situation about a man wearing heels and makeup and it not being tolerated, you think that somehow that is at the forefront of my concerns and priorities and principles. Well, I've covered that before. There are more important things in the world going on at the moment. Whether or not you think that President Trump or never President Harris will have achieved better things. Regardless, it doesn't matter who you would have supported. You get my support for supporting them. But there are more important things in the world than my identity. And there are more important things in the world than your identity going on at the moment. We're talking about the building blocks of civilization and of life and war and peace. Now, turning back to the purple chair for a moment, my old throne and its sail. Skip ahead if you're not interested, because I've received several inquiries about this. I have done actually throughout the years from people when I've said that I might replace it, have wanted to buy it or express an interest in buying it. Well, I'm going to put it up for sale. It's a high wingback velvet Chesterfield armchair. And I will consider, I'm not saying I'm going to, but I'll consider selling it to the highest offer. You should be local to London though, my dear. You should be local to London so that it's easily collectible, preferably in London. Unless you are very highfalutin, money is absolutely no object at all, then you can make your own arrangements. If you're not serious about it, don't bother, because it will require payment in advance of any collection. I'm not putting up with any sophistry. or any silly business. No offence to any genuine inquirers, by the way, but you know, there are inane lunatics out there who are going to try all sorts. Well, you'll be snuffed out very quickly, my dear. I want to know who I'm selling to, and I'll be taking payment before any other arrangements are made. And you'll need to be able to get to the Camden area where it's held in storage, and you'll need to understand that I won't be there, I'm afraid, my dear. I won't be there to hand it over to you, but it'll be given to you. For the details about it, I had it custom made for the broadcast in 2021, so it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 4 years. That's my strong point. About 4 years old. I bought it for about £700, but I actually think I paid a little bit more because I asked for it to be extended in height for aesthetic reasons. Hence the fact that although I'm tall, you know, I'm 6'1", almost 6'2", I always looked rather small in it, and people assumed that I was tiny. It's because I'd asked for the back to be higher than my head, so that you had a good view of whatever I was wearing on my head. Do you see how I think of these things, my dear? That worked in the previous location, you see. It's a liftable chair. I used to be able to lift it. You saw me jumping around in it and it'd move. It's not a heavy chair, despite the fact that it's large, although it is very good quality considering the price. I mean, it's not a lot of money for a Chesterfield of that size, do you understand? So you can't expect it to be the heaviest, greatest materials in the world, but it is good quality for the price that I paid for it. It served me very well through hundreds of broadcasts. I'm not going to rave about it as a sumptuous masterpiece. I didn't find it especially comfortable. I didn't find it uncomfortable, but it's not something that I would cozy into in my regular life. It was bought and used as a prop. Do you understand? And that's the way that I see it. But, you know, it's a costume item, like a costume jewel, I suppose you could say. The velvet is purple in colour. I'm afraid I can't hoover it, so it might be a little bit dusty or have glitter, specks of something or other over it. But it's in storage, and that's where it's going to be until it's collected. And it's made of solid dried beech, and it would be preferable if you're able to collect over the next fortnight or so from the Camden area, as I say. And £100 of the proceeds will go to Evelina London in honour of World Cancer Day, and the rest will be going to me, my dear. I've been going through a very long conveyancing process all year, to be quite honest with you, beginning around this time last year. The conveyancing for the sale of my previous property took 7 months, which is a pretty long time. It was gruelling, and especially gruelling, and then the purchase of this property took much longer than expected due to unforeseen issues, legal issues. And I know so many of you have been through this with sales and purchases, but it's exhausting because of the uncertainty, and you know that everything can fall apart on the turn of a dime, do you understand? So it really is exhausting mentally, and it was certainly exhausting physically as well. But moreover, it was financially very draining. I'm talking thousands in legal fees, solicitor fees, storage fees, conveyancing. And of course, the whole process affected my ability and my availability to work. So it's actually, I'm still coming to terms with the year that's just been, because it's been a lot, but we all go through a lot in different ways, don't we? First world problems. Well, this is a first world country, so I've got first world problems. What can I tell you? I'm open to offers, but I'm not going to be selling it for peanuts. If there's not enough interest, then I'll find something else to do with it, or send it off to charity or whatever, or hospital. I think it would be fun actually for children to in a home with children. But moreover, it is an iconic piece of furniture. Can we please bear that in mind? It is an iconic piece of furniture that represented this channel for 3 years in virtually every broadcast. It's a piece of broadcasting history. So I'm not just letting it go for peanuts. And in fact, Planet Hollywood should be on the phone by rights asking to put it on display. Do you understand? Along those lines, or the National Museum, something like that. If you have a genuine interest and wish to make an offer, then leave a comment. Try and fit the word throne into your comment so that my gatekeepers can search for your comments, relevant comments. afterwards with a sort of suggestion of how much you might want to pay, and my gatekeepers or myself will respond with our appreciation for your interest if we sense an air of authenticity. Queen Camilla joined students, teachers and parents at the official opening of Mulberry Academy London Dock, a new secondary school in Tower Hamlets, which strives to support young people and provide them with the skills to lead successful and fulfilling lives. Her Majesty spoke to students in their science, robotics and art classrooms, as well as those involved in programmes around the creative industries, female empowerment and over social initiatives. And she was very chic in a dark ensemble, the dizzy heights of which were draped in a snowy coiffure. A question from a beloved basketeer, Nano, here. And love to your husband, my dear. You tell me that he took a fall recently and broke 2 ribs. As I told you, my dear, ribs heal very quickly. Remember Madonna? I think she broke 8 of them at once, falling off a horse, and then she was back gyrating a few weeks later. So lots of love to you and hubby, my dear. Since King George was the Georgian era and Queen Victoria was the Victorian era, and Queen Elizabeth was the Elizabethan era, and Charles is the Carolean era. I think you said Carolina era, something like that. Carolean. What will it be when William is king? Well, that's an interesting one, my dear, isn't it? He'll obviously be the Big Willyan era. Yes. The Big Willyan. What a delicious thought. Oh, I wouldn't mind travelling in time to that era. Good question, my dear, but a rather limp answer for you, my dear, because there's no real answer for that. I don't really see the Latin for William, Gulielian, taking on, because I believe that's what the Latin is for William. Gulielian, there are various versions of it actually. There is Gulielmus is one option, Guillermo, there's a few, but the Latin for Charles, of course, Carolus, which gives way to the Carolean era. It was a beautiful part of the coronation ceremony, though, wasn't it? Do you remember Vivat, Vivat, Vivat? That part where they were also singing about Charles, weren't they? I Was Glad was the name of that hymn, and the name of the monarch is traditionally incorporated into it in Latin. So we had Vivat, Rex Carolus, Vivat, Rex Carolus, long live King Charles, Vivat. And then there was Vivat, Regina Camilla. Well, it was Vivat, Regina Camilla, my dears. Vivat, Regina Camilla. It did sound like Vivat, Vagina Camilla. I bet they had some fun with that in rehearsals. I shall put the link actually to I Was Glad from the coronation in the description box, because I really enjoyed it, and when I was making notes here I watched it back and tears sprang to the eyes, as they always do whenever I watch any moment of the coronation, the Patty Jube, all of it. So for William to be Vivat Rex Gulielmus, hasn't got quite the same ring to it, has it? So they might just say Vivat Rex Willie. Or William. The Latin for Catherine is usually Ekaterina, so Vivat Regina Ekaterina, or something along those lines. But they might revert to the anglicised version. But as you know, William, God willing, will become the 5th King William. I'm not sure that I really want Big Willie being known as Gulielmus. Do you, my dear? It's a bit like Old Ghoulies, isn't it? Big Willie to Old Ghoulies. Gulielmus, King Ghoulie. Ghoulie, 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 watch your ging gang goo. If the world survives a few more centuries, which I think is quite unlikely actually, but if it does, then it would be more likely that the era would be referred to under the House of Windsor as the era of the House of Windsor. As you get with the Stuarts, with the Tudors, the Windsors. Do you understand? I think that would be more likely. Because the 7-year reign of King William IV, well, that was quite unremarkable, and it didn't catch on then with any name, any Latin name for his era. So I don't really see it happening with William. A message of condolence from the King to the people of Papua New Guinea following the death of Sir Julius Chan, a former Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea. His Majesty fondly recalled many meetings in times of gaiety through the decades and sent heartfelt condolences as he is mourned. The King is head of state for Papua New Guinea, is King of Papua New Guinea because she is one of His Majesty's realms. He is sovereign. Papua New Guinea is situated in Oceania, north of Australia, you see, which is another one of the King's realms. He is King of Australia. He is King of Antigua. He is King of Barbuda. He is King of Bahamas. He is King of Belize. He is King of Canada. He is King of Grenada. He is King of Jamaica. He is King of New Zealand. He is King of Papua New Guinea. He is King of St. Kitts and Nevis, King of St. Lucia. He is King of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, King of Solomon Islands, and King of Tuvalu. Don't you ever forget it, my dear. How many realms are you king of? The Duke of Edinburgh has been in India to meet those participating in frameworks to support young people and help them find their purpose, place and passion in the world. His Royal Highness later joined the Duchess of Edinburgh, Sophie, in Nepal, and she was wearing this blanket stitch coat in Merlot and the ermine dress in teal as the Duke and Duchess met with the President of Nepal and the First Lady of Nepal. Isn't it Nepaling? Thank you for joining me on this spicy show. It means a great deal to me, and I loved seeing with you. I loved every second of it. I truly did. Thanks for getting spicy with me, my dear. From one spice girl to another, I send you all my baby love. I truly do. See you soon.